And with that, Matt, good morning.
Good morning.
Matt. So, hey, first off, I'm so thrilled we're doing this because we talked, I think, like a year ago, and it's just been one of those things. It's like every time I see your name pop up, your Instagram post, I'm like, oh, I got to get them on. So I'm just thrilled we're finally doing this. And Matt, if you don't mind, can you give everyone just a quick background of who you are and a little bit about what you do here at Compass, and we'll get our day going.
Yeah, sure. I guess it's pleasure to be here. Sky, one of my favorite people in the company, and it's like I could just sit here and listen to you guys all day. I feel like I'm in a back room that I was never allowed access to. Now I'm in here, like, hey, what's up? But my name's Matt Breitenbach. I'm out in the Hamptons. Been at Compass since 2018. I'm a second generation broker. My mom was a broker. Started selling when I was like 22 years old. I had this kind of idea when I went to college in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and driving to the battlefields, like, like I'm not meant for an office. I'm not meant for this stuff. I always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I never started like a landscape company in high school with my buddies. Like, always wanted to have this creative spirit. So I was like, let me get in real estate to create other companies. And, I ended up loving real estate and working with my mom 7 years, went on my own, kind of built my own brand, and then joined Compass. Once I met like Robert and those guys, I was like, I want to be part of this squad for sure.
Yeah.
And they were just, and still are, such a revolutionary company, Compass, that I wanted to be part of like kind of like the innovators and the disruptors in the game. And I feel like we are that in a lot of ways. So and it's been a great run. I run a team out here, and one of the top teams, the number one small team in the Hamptons right now, which is really exciting. Last year really hit a pinnacle, sales volume wise, and it's just been great. It's been a great journey.
It's awesome, man. So, and you have an athletic background, I think, right? Is it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess somewhat. I grew up in the Hamptons, really active, and surfing and golf and all sorts of sports and things. I played college football, did Division III for 2 years. But I've always, I played a lot of baseball growing up, and always been around team sports, and I do feel like when you're running a team, you can learn a lot from how people, a lot of teams.
Yeah. So here's a question, and this is actually a personal question, because you mentioned something that just triggered, like, being part of disruptors, innovators, people that are doing things differently. When you do things like that, people that are not part of that group love to talk about you. And they don't love to talk about you like, wow, those guys are so cool.
No.
As you can see, and we anything that happens within the Compass world that's like can be spun into this like news clickbait story. How do you deal with like haters, so to speak, or like all some of the negativity that surrounds us, and how do you deal with it as an individual, but then also as a leader within your team?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I think when someone once told me, it's like, if everybody's happy with you and everyone's like cheering you on, you're probably maybe not doing the right thing. It's hard. Like, I came in the business 22-year-old kid, right? This is 2006. There's no $1 million listing. There's no like young people. Like the youngest person in my company is like in their 30s at this point, right? And there's only 2 of them, right? It wasn't the business it is today. It's been amazing watching real estate. And I'm a top broker's son, and I think I'm 22 and wearing a t-shirt. They're like, who is this kid? They're like, they want to throw knives at me from the day I walked in the door. You know what I mean? So like, I've always kind of felt that. But I think you can use it as energy and as an inspiration to kind of feel that pushback, and also know that you're maybe onto something at the same day. And like, I love forging a new path. That's always been part of like my ethos. I think just like I would have stayed with my mom. I had a good position there. I would have stayed just doing that. But I kind of wanted to like, I remember talking to Rory about disruption at one point too. And it was like disruption in a good way too. Disruption can be like looked at as like a bad thing, but trying to like we say things in my team all the time, like make things better, like we're just trying to make things better. And, as to answer your question about leading a team, like this business, like if you run a team and you're on this call, if you don't, whatever, at least just get a community, like a smaller community that you can talk to, because like this business is so intense and it's so challenging, and the clients can be so crazy.
Yeah.
And you need, like, my team, like, our culture is like fun. Like, we like to just, like, we need to laugh and like, and just like joke, and we need to have like fun and just like loosen it up, because you have to, because this business is like, can be so intense, and the Hamptons is extremely competitive. I don't know if many people know about it, but like, and
Yeah.
even recently we have all these, like, there's city teams coming out here because there's so much market. Like, it's like the land of milk and honey out here, right? Like, it's just beautiful. There's big deals to be had. There's a ton of money, and
Yeah.
it's just like, it's extremely competitive, especially the higher you get up and the more successful you get. So
Sure.
it's pushing through these challenges and doing it. But just know, if there's people coming at you, you're probably doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I love that mentality and that mindset. So how do you deal, like, in this competitive market? What is it that you do that makes you stand out? Or how do you try to make yourself, like, to your words, like, better, so that people recognize that and then actually use you as a realtor?
Yeah, I mean, Compass has given me an incredible platform. I think my business is like over 50% since I got here. And I don't think that's just haters will say, oh, it's just the market, but now the market's slow, we're still having a great year, right? But
Yep.
I think for our team, I mean, I take a team approach. Hampton's is a very old school market,
Mhm.
and they're like, teams are relatively new. Like, I started, I rebooted my team in 2018, and I was like one of the first teams in the Hamptons. This is like
Okay.
2018.
Yeah.
And I think that like, people know us as a brand and as a team, and very like tight.
Yeah.
And like, we compete against a lot like of bigger agents, and a lot of them are like 20, 30. Like, there's a big crop that's like, and they're hanging on,
Yeah.
like, then especially in the luxury market, and they're tough, and there's these single agents, but they've been doing it. They got like, I mean, one guy's got $5 billion in sales, right? So like, how do I go into that room? I mean, I got, not that I have nothing, but it's that's a big thing for us. I think our approach, we took a very client-centric approach. I think our marketing, I think we also looked at as like connected to the new money. I think a lot like this new money that's taken in the Hamptons. That's why Compass has been a great fit for me, because it's kind of had this more modern
Yeah.
feel as a brand that's been really effective. Our marketing is really strong. We just kind of push this really strong support. Also, like, we're gonna work it, and we're gonna get out there, and we're gonna communicate with you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's a big thing on our team. It's just like, we're touching the clients weekly. So I
Yeah.
don't care if it's a 15-minute call or an email, whatever, you got to touch these guys weekly
Yeah.
and communicate them, because I realized, like, you could put your property on the cover of the New York Post every week, and I've done that in my career, and like, spent all this money, and then they're like, you haven't called me. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh.
Exactly.
That was
It's still
easy.
old school. Yeah. It's still old school real estate, right? You still
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
do the work. How about with like leadership? How big is give me a little background on your team, like how many agents? And then my follow-up question is, like, what are some of the leadership lessons you've learned by running a team?
Oh, so many. I always said, like, running a team is harder than building my business to what it was,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I got my business to like $100 million a year platform, and I'm like, I can't do this. And then I started, I had a child, and I was like, my wife's like, are you gonna slow down at some point? What's going on? And and I've learned so much trying to lead people. I've learned that culture trumps everything. You can tell about Compass, you know, like, person, like, the morals of that person. Like, you could give me the best resume in the world, but if like, you're not a good person, or I don't think you're gonna fit. Like, I think that's what I started looking at when I started joining, like, having people come on, was like, who
Sure.
they are,
Yep.
what's driving them, like, what's making them tick, like, where they're trying to go, type of deal. And it takes a lot of work, I think, as a broker, like, to lean into people
Yeah.
and to just find that time, because as a broker, you always want to do the next deal and pick up the phone and call the next person or work your own stuff. So
Yeah.
um, I think I've also learned that I need to work on myself a lot. I love this group. I get up in the morning. I have 3 kids, so one of them actually is kind of like me. She might get up. She might walk into the screen at some point.
Okay. Totally loud.
Um, like, if you're gonna lead people, you gotta lead yourself first.
Sure.
You
Yep.
can't
Yep.
lead everybody if you're not
Yeah.
locked in, and you got to
Yeah.
watch your emotional state. You got to watch those things. Like, I can't come to that team one day and be like, oh, like, some days I'm driving to office and I got people in the office. I'm like, I don't wish they weren't there. I just want to go in my office and hide. Like, I don't want to see anybody, but like, you got to get up. You got to get yourself in
Yeah.
a space. That's why I love you guys. Like this morning time, like I love the morning. I love getting up,
Yep.
getting in, and just like it's like it is a meditation. It's like preparing for kind of battle. Like I love your shirts, guy. Like compete every day. Yeah, like let's go get it, you
Go
know.
get
And
it. Yeah.
you know, that's kind of our team stuff too. Like let's F and go. Like let's go. Like let's just go get it every day. And I think people feel that energy, clients feel that energy. And right now I got like 2 top senior advisors to answer your question. Sorry, long-winded turnaround.
That's right. No, you're good.
I have right now I'm about to bring on 2 employees. I kind of shifted up my back office a little bit, which has been shifting for the last like couple months, but I'm trying to get the right people in there. And I have 2 really good like agents, you know, that I give a lot. I'm trying to work with my VIPs, and I bring these guys in on a ton of stuff,
Sure.
which has opened up my weekends. And I always work 7 days a week, and now having this team and working these guys, 2 guys I found that I can trust and that I can lead in. So they're like my senior guys. And then I have, you know, 2 other agents, one that's a kind of a junior agent, that I'm like developing. Which is funny. He's a junior agent. He's like 54 years old, but he's a retired finance guy. Just went through like a tough divorce, and he's like out here, but he's amazing. Like he's a member of every big club out here. He's a member of National Golf Links America, and he golfers on there. It's like top 10 course in the country.
Sure.
You know, so I'm trying to develop these people too. So, you know, I think, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that's right. So, because, you know, I think often like from the outside, everyone like looks at like numbers and Instagram and everything. We see all like the rosy stuff, but internally, when you run a team, there's always stuff that is you deal with. So without naming names, tell me about a mistake you made in hiring, or you know what I mean? Like we all have that person that comes to our mind, and we don't want names or anything like that. It's nothing against them. It's usually more about us. But like, talk about one of the mistakes you've made in building your team. If that's
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think it's all learning experiences, and you know, like, and when I came here in 2018, I wanted to reboot my team. I remember my past brokerage, I could never get it off the ground. I was like me and my right hand guy, and then I get like 1 or 2 guys, and then one would leave, and then I just couldn't, and I had no support. And that was one thing about Compass. Like they're like, we're gonna help you build this out. I'm like, this is awesome. So I got over here in 2018, and I went through a lot with my last brokerage trying to get over here, and they were tough. And once I started building it, I ended up getting a pretty decent group. I got like my assistant. I kind of did a few of the things, and you know, I had this girl that was like a hybrid role. And I think the biggest mistake I ever made was I was doing pretty good. We had a pretty good vibe going, and I ended up like putting her in a position of power that I probably shouldn't have moved. And I kind of like my right hand guy at the time, it kind of was not nice to do that to him, but I saw a lot of value in her. So I brought her into this and changed some stuff up. And it literally like it blew. It looks like a grenade went off in the middle of my team. Like everybody left my team, except my one guy. Like it was like I had to rebuild this whole thing in 2019. So that's why last year was such a big win to get from like 2019, where literally this girl was such a cancerous person on my team. She was ordering people around, all this stuff. I lost like one of my top young junior agents. Everybody, it was like a grenade, it exploded. And it was just me sitting there like, what just happened? You know?
Yeah.
And to get to like 300 million by 21, to come from that was like, it was really, really just like you got to celebrate the wins, you know, and that was a big win to kind of come back from that. So.
Dude, yeah, and it's so funny because you're definitely not the first team leader, you know, to go through. You're probably among the common people among team leaders of having that happen. When it was going on, like, what were you thinking as your team? Like, people were like, I'm out. Like what was going through your head when when it was sort of exploding? And then the follow-up question to that is like, how did you just like right the ship? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna go inside because there's like some annoying dog out here.
It's okay, dude.
You know, it was tough. It was really one of the hardest things to go through in my life. Like just you know, you feel so many emotions running a team. Like you feel betrayed, or you feel like all this stuff, or you feel like people don't like you, or they're mad at you, or what's going on. And I don't, you know, I think I just had to kind of. I literally actually called one of my top guys from Compass. One of the reasons I'm here, shout out to Scott Hustis. He's one of the original Urban Compass guy, and he's one of my good friends. And I said, dude, Scott, what do I do?
Yeah.
And he's like, hire a coach. And I hired Steve Scholl out of the gates, right?
Yep.
Um, and I worked with him, and it was helpful. Like, I just started getting into action.
Yeah.
I started
Yeah.
like getting into learning about things. I started like just studying how to lead, how to build teams, like just massive. I've always been a learner and someone that loves to read, someone loves to like, trying to just get into things and
Yeah.
master things. And that was really the first step. And I think ever since then, it's been a great journey. From there, and you got to rely on the community. And from there, I've like now worked with Shirag Shah, who's been huge in my career.
Yeah.
You got to get around these people. You got to go around mentors. You got to people that can really teach you a lot of things, because there's no books on this as an agent, or there's not a lot on it, and it's hard to figure out how to do it. So I just started, I made the call, like, what do I do? I started just
Yeah.
trying to learn, and really just figure, I don't know it all. I don't master everything, I got to figure this out.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's so funny because it's like that it hits you in such a personal way when people are leaving you, right? And like that, it's like, wait, what did I do, or why did they not like me? Like, I'm giving them all this stuff, and that work you need to do internally to like rebound. It's very, really, really hard. People, leadership is one of the hardest things. And to your point, there's very few books that are written, especially within the real estate world, on how to lead and run and everything along those lines. So it's not like
I had to say no too, it's so hard. Like I've like
yeah,
learned to like, or let people go too, like,
yeah.
you
Well,
know,
it's people pleasing, right?
yeah,
Like we want to be, I think it's like this common thread of a realtor. We want to be people pleasers. Like I call it the purple people pleasing monster, right?
yeah.
That book, like, and when you run a team, like you want to please everyone. You want people to be happy. And when they're not, it's like, it's so hard, man. People
It
know.
is really hard. It is really
Yeah.
hard. I think letting people go and not trying to force things has been a big thing, or just taking your time to
Yeah.
hire someone. Like I found this girl I met last week, and she blew me away. I've been looking for a director of operations for so long. Like
Yeah.
I always feel like I try to create these admins that are operational and they're not, and then I burn them out. And that's one thing too. I realized like I'm a lunatic. Like I go like 120, like, and
Yeah.
like Shirag Shah, my coach, always says, like, Matt, working with you is like trying to build a 747 while we're flying it. Like it's just
Yeah.
and you gotta watch that too. Some people aren't gonna love your, you love your brand and your business, like I've done that. I've burned people out. I've
Yeah.
actually like,
Yeah.
and they're like, they just, I could see it in their face. I'm like, all right, I gotta chill.
Yeah.
But it's hard running a team because you got, especially agents, I compare them to, you're talking about sports, I compare them to professional athletes, right? Like it's like, you get the guy that puts up 32 points on your team and he's like, gets a little bit ego going, and you're like, all right, you gotta like try to figure out. And some guys got more ego than others. Like one guy on my team, I call him the Zen master. He's chill and he does a lot of bills. And then my other guy is like, he's living large, and so it's you
Yeah.
got to deal with personalities for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like one of the traps we fall into as team leaders is we hire people instead of roles. Like we have to understand, like this is a team with their roles in the team, and like a professional sports team, like the Patriots is a great example, as whatever your sports affiliation may be, you can really admire the Patriots, how they take people and just make them fit into that role and they excel. Right. And that's, I think we often like look at a person as a placeholder for a role instead of saying, no, that's the role and they just need to fill it, and they can and will go, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
So
totally get what you mean. I think Chad Johnson on the Patriots, he just came out. He played for the Patriots on the Bengals for a while, but he was like, he has a great quote. He was like, that place he got why they won. He's like, it's like literally like it's a machine, and it's like it's like going to work. Like they literally put it on you. And Belichick's got that famous line, like, do your job, right? Like, just do your job.
So, all right. So as from one lunatic to another, you did 300 million in 21, like, and you're never satisfied. Like, I know, my theory is it's like, you never feel like you always want to do more. So like, what are your goals in 22, especially given, the market everywhere is like normalizing, shifting, changing. Some places are still a little hot. But for the most part, I think we can all agree, like we're definitely in a little bit of a moment where things are sort of shifting into a different phase. What are your goals for this year, and like how close are you going to get there? Because now, we're starting to get to that point. You can sort of visualize the end, the end zone, so to speak, of 22. Like where are you in the sense of like what is your goal, and are you going to reach it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this, last year I did have a couple, like we had one of the biggest deals in my career last year. I did a big $85 million oceanfront deal with, yeah, and it was just a crazy situation. I had a couple of these, like, when people ask me like who the guys I work with, I'm like, if you just like put a poster of Bobby Axelrod on the wall, those are a lot of the guys who we kind of work with, and they're just extreme well. But this year, if we can get to 200 million, I think would be really solid.
Huge.
And we're at about, we got some work to do, but we're having a really good kind of middle year push, better than we usually had. Our second quarter was better than it was. So we're getting there. I think we're at about 100 million for the year, so we definitely got some work to do. I don't know if we'll get there, but we're going to strive and push it. But if we can get in that vicinity, I think I'd feel like that's a big win for us. And
huge one. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's kind of like when you get on that list. We got on that Wall Street Journal list, and now it's like this, which was like a big win for me. I always want to be on, like, I've made the top, America's Best like a bunch of times, but like, and then as a single agent, I made Real Trends like years ago. But to like get all the way back there as a team, now I'm like, all right, gotta stay there, So I'm like, if we can get to around 200, I think we'll be up there and make it happen. And we're just trying to keep building and keep growing the team. Like, I want to just keep getting depth with my guys, keep building our culture, and I think get some good back office support, which is kind of where we're at right now. We're really trying to,
huge.
Because
then it puts you back into like a lead generation position, right? Which is where you should, that's how you get to that 200 million, is by generating more leads and getting there. So Matt, I know tell me more about, like, personally, like, you got 3 kids, you got, how do you balance being a dad and everything along those lines with running a huge business as well?
It's so hard. It's a really hard thing. I think it's harder than building a business. It's harder than doing deals. It's my family's everything. My kids are everything. And I was raised by a broker, so my mom started selling real estate in like 1987. My dad was a builder growing up. One reason I think I grew up watching him get up early at 6 a.m. So I kind of grew up around the real estate world and the work ethic that it took. I also saw the challenges and also maybe some things not to do that I saw my parents do, and I all respected them. I love them to death, but it's hard trying to balance it all. And you just gotta, I realize, again, to keep talking about getting up early, but there's a lot of hours in the day and you can utilize more of them. So I think trying to find that time in the morning and stretch things out, having a great team, which costs me money, like I got to pay these guys commissions. But you got to scale, and you can't just go, all right, something's got to give. You can't just like say, all right, I'm going to be present more, home more, and then not bring in people to help you out, and I think I've always had a vision where I've wanted, like, talk about disruption, innovation, right? Like I growing up around the business, being in my 20s, like I noticed these brokers and I'm like, or even working for my mom, I was like, Mom, like we're running 250 million in listings and like someone's always mad at us, just me and you. Like, can we hire somebody? Like it's like break down here. You gotta be able to scale your business, and I think getting the right people to help you out, in order to do that. And that's been the main thing for me is trying to do that so I can be present. I've had my weekends, and Chirag actually has helped me do that so much. Shout out to him again. Like he came on, he really cared about that for me, and like we really try to structure the team so I can have my weekends. And I think I actually got a tan this summer. It was like amazing. Like I actually got some beach time, and just give me a phone, I could run ship. I gotta sometimes I'm hiding in the corner trying to fire off a couple emails and a couple texts. You can do it. And I think there's a lot of perception in the real estate industry that you can't, and I always joke, like, brokers are like, we never got out of the mailroom. Like, you start at one point in your career sometimes, and brokers just want to stay like doing the same thing. And it's like, I see it out here all the time, talking about these old school guys, I'll see like that's like, what are you doing here, man? Like you should have some help.
Yeah, so true.
You
So
know,
true. And I think that's the hardest part about real estate, right? It's like in most jobs, you can like, all right, like the market shuts down, right? Like, all right, the market's closed. Like, I don't need to work. A lot of people you're probably surrounded with, there's a world where court, a lawyer, like, all right, the courtrooms are closed. But with real estate, when they're off, that's when you're on. And that does impact family time. So Matt, on as vulnerable as you want to be, you can, but tell me about something you've gone through on a personal level that was, something that was really challenging. And once again, you can be as vulnerable as you want. When a lesson you learned from that situation.
and from or like you talk, like a real estate related one,
Nah,
or
not personal. Like on you as a person, like
yeah. Oh man, that's a good one. Think about that one was. I think as a kid, I learned a lot about being a man from my grandfather. And having two working parents, I spent a lot of time with my mom's grandparents.
Yeah.
I always joke about the millennial parents these days is like, you guys are all just keep working. You guys got to retire. Like we don't have like the grandparents. My mom's a broker still. I'm like, can you pick up the kid? She's like, oh, there's got this guy flying in. I got to pick this. I'm like, no, it's grandparents' day at school. What are you doing? Anyway, I lost both my grandparents at a pretty young age. My grandfather was really tough. Like I lost him in 2006. And I remember when he was dying of cancer, he looked at me and he said, he told my mom this, he didn't tell me this, but he said, Matt's an amazing guy. He just needs a good girl. And literally, like, I think like a couple years later, my wife showed up. I always thought it was like some kind of angel situation. But
Yeah.
that was tough, especially him, because he taught me, my dad was like always serious, and it's good. It was like, I grew up with a lot of discipline. I get a lot of my work ethic from him. He's got German genetics, and I think he just like pounded that into us. But like my grandfather was like Italian, and he was fun and he was laughter, and he gave me, I think, I see a lot of his personality in my mother, and I see a lot of his personality in me, and I think he was a big shaper. So losing him, I think, and having some of that guiding ship from a mentorship perspective was really tough. And I felt a lot of really lost in my 20s, not knowing where, even being in real estate in my 20s, like going through a lot of like, it wasn't easy. It was a weird business. And then like having all these like self-doubts and like about who I was and should I be doing this, and it wasn't really an attractive career at the time. So I went through a lot in like my late 20s, I think, from an internal standpoint of like who I am and what I need to do. And actually when I met my wife, my then girlfriend, whatever, first met her, and I think she really taught me how to be vulnerable, how to be open, and like she really saw something in me that she was like, you can be who you want to be, and really like poured into me. And I think like, just went through massive maturity. That's what led me to like venture out of the nest and like be a man. Like I felt like I had to do this as a man. I had to go out on my own. And like, I was tired of the whole brokerage community of Hamptons thinking I was just some product of my mother. And I just like, that was really like to sit my mom down and tell her I'm going to go out on my like, hey, like I'm going out. And she was so supportive. I didn't know how I was going to go, and it was going through those battles and going through that stuff. And then, my wife had, was really the one that kind of saw that in me at that point. She jokes now that she's like, you're too healed now. I liked you when you're all broken and like, you're like this like weepy mess of a man at 28 years old. And now you're like, you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working out, like you're doing your thing, you're ripping around, and you're like doing all these big things. And but she jokes with that. But
it's great.
You gotta go through things in life, So.
What's a lesson your grandfather taught you that you still carry with you today?
I think like it's what I was just talking about when I got here. It was like, just have fun, and make up things. And even the way I parent my kids, like I used to games he used to play. We get in his truck and he'd be like, all right, this is an airplane. Who's the navigator? And like, you just gotta have fun and you gotta laugh, and I remember like he'd come over for dinner. It was always fun, like it was like, the Italian, it was funny because I grew up like German and like Italian. So it was like
Italian. Wow.
So like, like my grandfather was like Ralph Peck, and he had like a cookie at 2 o'clock every day, and it was like very like this. And then I go over to the Italians for dinner, everything's flying everywhere, and it's like everyone's having a good time. And like from him, I just learned like to laugh and have a good time. And that's, I think, for our team, it's like that's really what we try to do is laugh and have a good time.
Yeah, that's great. It's really great you got those two, sides of you, right? The German discipline, like, all right, let's, this is process, et cetera. And then the Italian, like, let's get crazy. And
Yeah. It's hard because it's got both sides. It's like, I always felt that I've had these two, maybe then I realized maybe it's a genetic code, but I've always felt like I've had these two different sides of myself that like pull me in these different directions.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, Matt, hey, we obviously got to get everyone off to their morning, but before we leave, if you could give everyone what's one tip you have for every person on this call. We have a lot of staff members on this call as well. What's one piece of advice you have for everyone for the remainder of the year, right? Just to the end of 2022, of something they can do. It could be business, life, your call of what your piece of advice would be for everyone.
I think just focus on relationships. That's one thing for us is building good, strong relationships, and just stop talking about real estate all the time. Like just meet people and get to know who they are. Like ask them some real questions. Like, Scott, I love that. Like, what happened to you at this point, right? See that answer? Like that answer was deep, right? Like
that was great, man. I know more about you.
Like, what do you do for lead generation? You'd be like, okay, well, which is fun too. I love that stuff, right? But like, get to know people and talk to them, because you want to build that relationship with people, and that's what trumps everything. And like, you could have the best this and that, whatever, but if they love you and they like you, they're gonna want to do business with you, or just be a friend. And it may not happen tomorrow, but like I always say, play the long game. So just build those relationships and don't look for the result tomorrow. Have patience with it, that you're just gonna keep building these relationships.
It's great, man. Well, and I can tell you, Matt, like, everyone on this call like respects the 300 million. Everyone loves the story about your grandfather, right? Like the 300 million, that's awesome, man. There's not a person on this call that when you talked about your grandfather didn't see you as a person, right? The 300 million is just a number that's going to come and it's going to go, and you're going to do 500 million one year probably, right? That doesn't define who you are. Your grandfather defines who you are, right? What you learn from him, I'm knowing the German, Italian side of you. Every time I see you now, that I'm not going to work. I don't even care about your sales. That side is like, I'm going to say, are you German or Italian right now? Okay, we're Italian. Let's shots, right? Like, oh, we're German. Let's go. All right, lead generation, right? Like that's something that is so powerful. And I think that advice is so on point. Like, there's a world for business and there's a world for personal, but the personal is what actually creates the strength and the power in your business, as opposed to the numbers and everything along those lines. So look, dude, I'm so thrilled we finally pulled this off, and good luck with hitting your goals and the rest of the year. And I still see Doug Headings. Doug, can you come on real quick? Because I saw in the chat you put something that can you tell, because Doug's like been in the real estate game a little while. So tell us
Are you talking about my comment about Matt leaving his mom?
Yeah, tell us about that.
Matt, when you first left your mother, the entire industry thought you were insane.
Yeah.
Like we all what the hell is he thinking? Why is he doing this?
Yeah.
And turns out the last laugh is on us. Well done, sir. Well done.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was a lot of people thought that too. Like it was like, you got a good gig, and even my best friend was my best man at my wedding. Is like, what are you doing? But I felt like I had maximized my place there with her. And I had reached the apex of where I could go, and she didn't really get the team concept too. I kept trying to build a team. It's just older school, and I was like, you know what, like the creative juice to want to go build a brand and do my own thing. So I guess the other lesson is don't be afraid to take chances in life and go down that road and do it, because it's going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do, but hard things are rewarding too at the same time.
So cool. So